Hey class, in this video, I want to give you a sense of how I start to learn about a set of drawings and understand, what we're being asked to build. Oftentimes, drawings can be pretty overwhelming with, in this case, it's a small drawing set. It's only 8 pages, but it is a small structure. This is for a laneway house that's approximately 13 feet wide and 25 feet long. So not a big structure, but it does take a lot of drawings, a lot of plans, and elevations and details, interior elevations to convey what it is we're going to construct. So at first, it can definitely feel overwhelming to go, what exactly are we building? Because the key to estimating is you first have to understand what it is you're building and then break it down into its component parts to then cost it out. Because a plan always shows us, what the final structure is. It never tells us the assembly, the layers, which subtrades do certain activities in parts of the building scope. So for me, the basic key to most drawings and understanding what it is we're doing are 3 types of drawings. So one is the floor plans. For me, those are on A1.0. And I'm lucky, this is a small structure. All my drawings for my floor plans are on 1 page. The other thing that gives me a sense of, well, how tall is it? What shape is it? What's it clad with? Are there lots of windows or cantilevers? Is going to be my elevations. So on A2.0 and 2.1, I have elevations. And the other key for me to understanding how this is constructed and the assembly types and types of framing, is there wood or steel, is often the sections. So A4.0 gives me wall sections. So I start often by looking at floor plans. So for me, I flip to A1.0, I pull my page back, and I've got a couple drawing types. I have my ground floor plan, again, small structure. It's 13 feet wide and 27 foot 10 long. So nice and small. And at 3/8 scale, I can fit, or the architect can fit, the main floor, second floor, and also give me a beautiful reflected ceiling plan. So a floor plan, as a refresher, it's like you took a saw and cut right through the building and you're looking from about 4 feet off the ground, you're looking straight down. So if we want to get a sense of, what the ceiling is, ceiling finish, wiring, electrical layout, anything above us, anything like bulkheads for mechanicals, that's on the RCP. So I first come to the floor plan and learn about, how many room types are there. So we have storage, we have mechanical, I've got a 2-piece bathroom, and I have stairs going upstairs. On the second floor, we have a single bedroom, 3-piece bathroom, living and dining here, and then a kitchen that's connected to living and dining. So nice and compact. The first thing I usually do is I flip to the elevations. How tall is this? Does it have a shed roof? So a monoslope? Is it a hip or a gable? What kind of construction am I getting into? Is I can flip, back to my schedule, go to my east and west elevation, so A2.0 and 2.1. So A2.0, flip this back, and I can see that I am in fact having a monoslope. So I've got a shed roof up top. I have a few different cladding types. So already I'm thinking about, can I have this metal siding and this woodlap siding installed by the same person? Do I need to start considering having multiple trades, even for things like exterior cladding? What are my window sizes? Am I familiar and comfortable installing windows this large on the second floor? It just gets me thinking about what it is I'm building. And the other thing it tells me is the elevation is going to give me details on how it relates to neighboring structures. So in this case, the south elevation is telling me that I am really abutting the neighboring building with no setback. So I'm sort of thinking about the complexity and what that looks like. The other thing I want to go to is the wall sections. So A4.0. So I flip to drawing A4.0. And for me, sections, and let's just pull back a drawing here and go to the actual assembly section. The sections give me a sense of how the building is framed and what interior ceiling heights are, what floor thicknesses are, how the architect is planning on or designing framing that floor header. It gives me a sense of the complexity of the actual assemblies. So as I relate back to my wall types and my roof types and floor types, this is how I get a sense of how they're brought all together. So getting a sense of, in this case, details like we have a stem wall for the foundation, and that is supporting our exterior walls. I can notice that in here, the architect is not calling for a traditional footing. So this view really gives me a sense of how this building is constructed by taking a slice all the way through the building in looking in one direction. I can see whether they have things like fire blocking for separations. I can see things like whether the partition is running up flush to ceiling or whether it's recessed. I can get a sense of how they are planning on framing and flashing things like our rooftop skylights. So those are great details. And if I want to learn more about, how do they frame this cantilever? What are the connections between the exterior air barrier? What are the connections between the exterior CI or continuous insulation? I can flip to other drawings. So this kind of brings us to a good point to learn about, just a refresher again, how we learn to find those pieces. So we go to our floor plan, again, back on A1.0. Let's do a refresher on how we find sections and elevations. So when you find an arrow pointing towards a drawing, and it does not have a line moving down from that arrow or going through the structure, it's showing you an elevation. It's pointing at this side of the house and saying this view of this side of the house is found on A2.1, so that's the page number on the bottom, and it's drawing 2. If I want to find the opposite elevation, it's also on A2.1, and it's drawing 1. So if I flip to those pages, I can find that, in fact, the east elevation, which is the non-attached to the neighboring structure, I can see that it's clad. In this case, the drawing number 2, the one that abuts the neighboring structure with 0 setback, it's fully clad in fiber cement siding. So already my mind's racing around, well, how do I clad this structure when there's 0 setback? I start to think about, well, maybe I can't actually sub out the fiber cement siding. I got to install that when the wall's on the flat, when I'm framing it, and tip it up fully done. So I'm already thinking about that. The elevations help me do that. The other piece is figuring out, well, what section relates to a longitudinal section or a cross section? And this is where we look at, again, our arrows with a line coming off of it. That's showing us that the architect has done a drawing for us, and they've cut through this drawing. So here's the arrow pointing in one direction, so it's looking this way on the second floor plan. Here's where it starts, here's where it ends, and this black tick is showing us the direction. So again, A3.0 is where I find it, and it's going to be drawing number 2. If I flip up to the top, I can also see that the main floor is in that same section. It's pointing this way. It's A3.0, drawing 2. If I want to know what the cross section is, looking towards the back, I can see that's also on A2.0, but it's drawing number 3. So it's pointing this way. If I want to know what it looks like to cut towards the front, then it's on A2.0, drawing 4. So understanding how these circles work in the arrows is important. So page numbers on the bottom, drawing numbers on top. When I get to things like details within my drawing, so let's flip to, this is A2.0, looking at a transverse section or a cross section of the building, and the architect's showing me that this bubbled line, so long dash dot, is saying that there's a detail of this, probably at a larger scale, to show me how the connections work for this concealed eaves trough, how the probably air barrier and interior vapor retarder transition around that traditional platform structure. So let's learn where that is. So you can see there's a line coming off, circle, no arrow because it's indicating what it's showing, and that is on page A4.0, drawing 4. Adversely, I can look at the front section at the top of my monoslope roof to see how this is flashed on A4.0, drawing 3. So let's flip to A4.0, which is here, and drawing number, let's see, the bottom was drawing 4, the top is drawing 3. So drawing 4 down here is the bottom side. So here we can see, how in fact they actually have a footing, which in this case it doesn't exist. It's a monopore foundation wall. We can see that connection with the sill plate and how it's bolted. We can see here how they talk about having continuous vapor barrier move the interior around that floor header, then back up second floor. In this case, they're showing us even more detail. They're saying if you want to learn how this concealed trough is built, I want you to flip to another drawing. In that case, it's page A5, drawing 4. And the foundation detail, and probably this sill plate connection, or even the footing detail, is on page A5, drawing 8. So let's look at drawing 8 and 4 to get further clarification. So I'm flipping to A5, so here, we have drawing 8, which is going to be our foundation. And in fact, we can see that there's no footing. They're doing that through a monopore. So effectively, they're pouring the same width of the footing would be as the full foundation wall to reduce the number of steps incurred to build that structure. And if we want to get a sense of, again, what the detail is at the concealed trough or eaves trough, is drawing number 4. I can flip to 4 and find out that, in fact, it is a concealed trough. I get a great sense of the flashing detail and the overlaps, but also continuity. So how the roofing membrane, in this case, looks like a 2-bit torch down, how that connects to the flashing, where the overlaps are, and how the exterior continuous air barrier connects to all that assembly. So drawing types is crucial. So if I was starting again, for me to get my head around drawing, the first thing to work from is floor plans. Then I flip to elevations, get a sense of what it looks like from the exterior. Then go to sections. How is it constructed? And if I have questions around the footings or the roof connections, flip to details. So always work from your first page. In this case, for me, it's A8.0 or 0.0. Look at your drawing schedules and move in that order and have fun exploring your drawing set.